I'm Dr. Frita. Molly. That name sounds real cute and harmless. But who is Molly? What is Molly? Molly is the slang for the illegal synthetic drug, also known as ecstasy, and Mdma. It is a stimulant, and it causes a high with feelings of euphoria, love, intense emotional warmth, intimacy. It can also cause heart attacks, seizures, brain hemorrhages, kidney failure, and death. The real name for Molly, Mdma, is 3,4-methylenedioxymethamphetamine. Does it still sound harmless? It's not. Molly has been around since 1914 when it was first introduced as an appetite suppressant. And over a century later, it is still relevant. And in fact, it's kept relevant in lots of pop culture songs, like in Miley Cyrus's song, We Can't Stop, Dancing with Miley. And even in the hit song by Jay-Z and Alicia Keys, Empire State of Mind, there's a line that says, Mdma got you feeling like a champion. And of course, there's that Future song, Mask Off, where he's talking about Percocet, Molly Percocet, which also gets into the fact that a lot of times Molly is mixed with other drugs. And with this recent Jussie Smollett scandal, it has been alleged, I don't know it to be true, but it has been alleged that Jussie Smollett also partakes in Molly. With that, as always, a lot of my nosy, my curious patients and friends have been asking me about Molly because folks seem to think that it's just cool and that it's harmless. But Molly can be fatal. So in today's video, I am going to discuss Molly. Molly is usually ingested orally in the pill or the powder form. Molly is supposed to be the pure form of Mdma, whereas ecstasy is typically mixed with substances like amphetamines or caffeine. But truth be told, Molly, that is supposed to be pure, is often also mixed. It can have things like prescription drugs. It can even have illegal drugs mixed in with it. And it can have household substances like baking soda or soap. Truth be told, if you're at a club or at a house party and someone offers you Molly, you really don't know what's in it. I mean, it's not like it's FDA approved. You don't know. Molly, or Mdma, affects the neurotransmitters in your body. And neurotransmitters are chemicals that relay certain messages to your body. Serotonin is an example of a neurotransmitter, and it can affect the mood, the memory, the appetite, the sleep. So when Molly is taken and it causes a serotonin release, then it causes an elated mood. It can cause an appetite suppression. It can cause sleep deprivation. The effects of Molly are usually seen within 1 to 2 hours of its ingestion, and the effects last anywhere from 3 to 8 hours. What is the dosing of Molly? Well, again, it's not FDA approved, so Big Brother isn't watching. Typically, the dosing ranges from 50 milligrams to 200 milligrams, but pills have been known to have 300 milligrams, 500 milligrams. So again, if you're taking Molly, you really don't know what you're ingesting. You could be taking in a fatal dose and really have some detrimental effects. Let's talk about some of the effects of Molly. Some of the effects that make Molly a popular drug are that it does cause euphoria, so you have this feeling of intense happiness. It can also cause a lovingness where you feel really emotionally warm toward other people and you have no problem expressing this affection. It can cause you to feel elated. It can cause you to have a hypersensitivity where you enjoy music more, you enjoy colors more, lights more. It just seems like you enjoy everything better when you have the Molly on board. Molly can also make you less defensive. It can make you lose track of time. It can make you more social, more outgoing. So these are some of the effects that make it very attractive. And though I'm now mentioning Molly simply as an illicit drug, an illegal drug, which it is, it has been studied for actual treatment in things like PTSD. But again, it's not FDA approved. It is still an illegal drug. So now I've shared with you some of the things that make Molly a popular club drug or house drug, or even a drug that people as couples sometimes take together. But let's talk about the part of Molly that's real, but that's not glamorized. These are some of the negative and potentially fatal effects of Molly. Molly can cause a very fast heart rate, a tachyarrhythmia. It can also cause an arrhythmia, where you have such an irregular heartbeat that it doesn't pump effectively. Molly can cause you to have heart attacks. It can cause severe hypertension. It can cause a high blood pressure, which we know increases your risk for kidney disease, strokes. Having Molly on board can also cause you to have a brain bleed, an intracranial hemorrhage. Molly keeps you from regulating your temperature properly, so you can get a fever or hyperthermia. You can also get a problem with your movements where you actually don't move, and you can get rhabdomyolysis, which is when your muscle cells break down and the pigment from within your muscle can cause kidney failure, the need for dialysis, even death. All of these are real negative effects of Molly, and these aren't fairy tales. People really have died related to these issues with Molly. Molly can also cause a status epilepticus, or a seizure that just won't stop. It can also cause excessive sweating, dehydration, which again can lead to kidney failure. And then there's that dry mouth. A lot of people who take Molly are aware of the dehydration that can occur and this dry mouth, and so they call themselves trying to make sure they drink enough water. You can also drink excessive water with Molly, which can lead to hyponatremia, cerebral edema or brain swelling, and again, death. Some of the long-term effects of Molly is that it can cause what they call a crash or a come down, where you can get depression when you're not on the Molly. Everything in life may seem worse when you're not on Molly, and you can really get a mental addiction to the Molly. Also, if you mix the Molly with other drugs. Now, given that Molly is oftentimes taken at parties, be it clubs or house parties, there are oftentimes other things like alcohol or amphetamines or even cocaine. So these things can mix and cause an issue. But prescription drugs can cause an issue as well. And I don't just mean Percocet. I'm talking about certain antidepressants, such as the SSRIs. If you're taking an antidepressant, like a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, and you also take Molly, which is causing this release of serotonins, then you can get serotonin syndrome. And again, it can be very detrimental to your health. So these are things that you simply must understand about taking this Molly, which is all over the pop culture and seems to be real cool and real relevant right now. So what do you do if someone is having negative effects of Molly? Well, you need to call 911. You need to activate EMS. If the person is having that hyperthermia, that fever, they need to be cooled down. If they're dehydrated and if they have enough mental capacity to drink water, they need to drink water. But if they've been drinking too much water, of course, that calling 911 will help them to get evaluated so that this hyponatremia or cerebral edema does not ensue. Basically, once they get to the ER or the place of evaluation, they'll have their blood sugar checked. There'll be a tox screen done. An EKG will be done. The evaluations will be done. But the key is to know that if a person is having negative effects from Molly, if they're tripping or whatever you want to call it, it is an emergency and 911 must be activated. Now here's the problem. If Molly is being done at a club or a place where other people are high or intoxicated, if you're doing that, then you are now depending on people with altered mental status to save your life. So this is something to think about if you're going to be participating in street drugs. Just be real smart. Just think about it. If you start to have a problem, a life-threatening problem from Molly, are you really going to trust the other people around you who are also likely high or drunk? I'm not just talking to young people about Molly, because there are a lot of people who are very grown who like to do Molly. Just remember this, grown people. If you are older and you already have high blood pressure, or if you have kidney disease, then you are just really, really magnifying your risk of these illnesses, given that both of them can be side effects from the Molly. So be careful. And as for young people, oh gosh, young folks, especially teenagers and young adults, it's tricky to have the talk about drugs with young people. And I can't say that I've mastered it, because I've not. I tried to have a talk with my daughter, kind of. She just turned 13. And last year, when I took her to the nail parlor one time, I normally let her just pick her own nail colors, and she will pick things like pastels and aqua or bright colors, really feminine colors. So I just wasn't paying attention. When she finished getting her nails done, I looked over and her fingernails were black. I looked south of her ankles and her toenails were black. This was a change. And so I did what any logical, concerned parent would do. And right there in the middle of the crowded nail shop, I said, "Are you on drugs?" She didn't think I was funny. I cracked myself up, no pun intended. And I'm being a little facetious, but in all honesty, it's tricky to have the talk about drugs with young people. And this is why, young people, now I'm talking to you, teenagers and young adults think that they are the best that ever did it. They don't understand that parents, that mothers and fathers were young also. And let me tell you, your mamas and your daddies have lived. And so you should really listen to your parents, because there's some wisdom. If you are, for example, out at a party and you promised your parents that there would be no drugs and no alcohol, but say there really are drugs and alcohol, and you've been drinking or you've been partaking in Molly or some other substance, don't be so scared to call your parents that you drive home under the influence, or that you actually get in the car with someone else who's under the influence. Some of you are so scared that your mamas are going to kill you that you do things that might make you kill yourselves. So young people, talk to your parents. As for you grown-ups and parents, don't be so judgmental and so holier than thou that your children don't feel comfortable talking to you about drugs or about alcohol. Sure, tell them that you don't want them to drink. Tell them that you don't want them to do drugs, and explain why. But also, make sure that they are comfortable enough to call you if they are out and in a situation where they have done drugs or alcohol, or if they're around people who've done those things. Make sure that they can have that dialogue with you. Adults, talk to your children and tell them stories of your youth. I know you went to the club when you were younger. I saw you there. This ends my overview of Molly, aka Ecstasy, aka Mdma. Please like my video, please share my video, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my page and hit that notification button so you know when I have new videos to come out. The reason I mentioned some of the positive draws toward Molly is not to glamorize the drug. I'm definitely not trying to glamorize Molly. I just want for people to understand, particularly parents, why people are drawn to Molly. It does cause euphoria. It does cause a loving feeling. It does cause this feeling of disinhibition and being more social. This is the truth. But it also causes seizures, rhabdomyolysis, heart attacks, kidney failure, and it can cause death. This is the truth as well. I want you to know 360. As always, I want you to take care of yourself, and I want you to do your best to live your healthiest, happiest life. I'm Dr. Frita.